Today I'm going to talk more about printing. In particular, I want to talk about setting up your worksheet so that it looks attractive when it prints and so that the information on the worksheets are printed on together so you don't have, for example, one column left hanging on a different worksheet. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the page orientation. The default page orientation for an Excel worksheet is Portrait, which is the standard 8.5 by 11. And so I just clicked on Page Layout View so I can see how this is going to look when I print it. And as you can see, I indeed have a column that's all by itself on a separate page, and that's not what I want. It makes it very difficult for the person who's reading the worksheet to get the information they need. So one possible solution for this might be to change the page orientation. So I'm going to go to the Layout tab and I'm going to click the Orientation button, and I'm going to choose Landscape, which makes the width of the paper 11 versus 8.5. So now, as you can see, that allows me to get this worksheet all on one page without having to scale it to fit or do anything else of that nature. The next thing I want to cover is defining a print area. Sometimes you won't want to print the entire worksheet, but just a select part of it, and this is how you do that. So for this particular exercise, I'm going to switch to Page Break Preview. And this, of course, shows you where the page breaks are going to happen. And I'm going to increase the zoom level a little bit so I can see better. And for this, I'm going to select cells A1 through K19, which is the worksheet title and that first table. Now, if I wanted to print just that part of the worksheet, I would then go to the Page Layout tab and then click on the Print Area button and click Set Print Area. And you can see that the rest of the worksheet is now grayed out, and what that means, if I were to print at this point, it would just print that selection. So I'm going to remove that print area. So I go back to the Page Layout tab and back to the Print Area button, and this time I'm going to choose Clear Print Area. Another thing that I can do with my worksheet is define exactly where I want my page breaks to happen. So on this monthly sales analysis worksheet, you have 3 tables. And as you can see right now, on the first page, it's going to print down to about row 32, and then it's going to break and go on to the next page. So the last 2 rows of the second table would be on a separate page, which is something we don't want. So what I'm going to do is insert some page breaks. I'm going to tell Excel exactly where I want the page breaks to happen. And one way that I can do that is by clicking in the cell, in this case A20, or in the row where I want that page break to happen. So basically what I'm going to do is set this up so each table prints on its own page. So I'm going to click in cell A20, and then I'm going to click on the Breaks button in the Page Setup group on the Page Layout tab, and I'm going to tell it to insert a page break there. And you can see now that I have the page break border here that shows me where the page break is going to happen. I'm going to come down here and do the same thing in row 35 by clicking in A35 and again clicking on breaks and inserting a page break. So now I've got this set up where those tables will each print on a separate page. Since they're printing on separate pages, I would like my heading material here to also print on each of these pages. So I'm going to go ahead and set the print titles. And to do that, I'm going to click on Print Titles, and it opens up this dialog box here, which is basically the Page Setup dialog box. And I want to make sure that I'm on the Sheet tab. And then I'm going to come to the Rows to Repeat at top and click in that text box. And I'm going to select A1 through A4. And then I'm going to click OK, but first I want to draw your attention here. It now has rows 1 through 4 in the Rows to Repeat at top. And I'm going to click OK. And if you go to Print Preview at this point, you'll see that each one of these tables will print on a separate sheet, and it also has the heading information included on each sheet. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is add a footer to this particular worksheet. And in the last tutorial I showed you how to group your worksheets and to get your name to print on each page in the worksheet. And for this one, I'm going to do the header or the footer in a slightly different way. I'm going to use the page layout view. So I'm in print layout view or page layout. And when you're in page layout, you'll notice that at the top and bottom of the pages you have click to add footer and click to add header. And so you can do your headers and footers in this view as well. And you'll notice that the header and footer is divided up into 3 sections, just like it is when you use Page Setup. So I'm going to go ahead and click in the left-hand footer area at the bottom of this first worksheet here. And in the footer area, I'm going to add the file name. So you'll notice that when I clicked in that footer, I now have a new context-specific tab, the Header and Footer Tools. And in the Header and Footer Tools, there's a group called Header and Footer Elements. And you've got elements to add page numbers and dates and times and so forth. So I want to add the file name. I want to know which file this is. So I'm going to click on that button. If I come back down here to the footer area, you're going to see the code for add the file name. It's not going to show your actual file name, it's just going to show that code. In the center, I'm going to add a page number. And to do that, I'm going to type the word page and a space. And then I'm going to go back up to the header and footer elements and click on page number. That adds the code to insert the page number. I'm going to press space. I'm going to type of and press space again. And I want it to include the number of pages, so whoever receives this knows that there's a certain number of pages in this document. Okay, and then last, I'm going to come over here and add my name. So in essence, I'm doing something different than what's in the textbook, and this is the way I want you to do it. Now, oftentimes when we get into workbooks that have several sheets, I am also in this left footer area going to have you add the sheet tab name so I know what I'm looking at. Once you're done adding your header and footer, you can then click outside of the header and footer back in the worksheet. It's like working in Word where you double click in the header area to get into the header and then double click on the body to get back into the body. So to repeat, this is the footer setup that I want you to use on all of your worksheets from here on out. Also, when you are printing, I want you to take the time to go into Page Layout View to see how your document's going to look when it's printed, and make changes like changing from portrait orientation to landscape orientation to get the work to fit on one page. Sometimes you'll actually have to scale the worksheet to get it to fit on one page, and we'll cover that in a later chapter. So that's printing for today.